What's up, guys? NFL Week 17's in the books. So many great games, playoff implications everywhere. Let's talk about it. Happy holidays, everybody. Let's talk about the Christmas games. We had 3 games, Cowboys and Commanders. No playoff implications there, so we're not going to waste too much time on it. Cowboys beat the Commanders 30-23. The Vikings were playing Scrooge and ended the Lions' playoff chances, beating them 23-10. Quite shocking. Vikings now winning 4 in a row. No J.J. McCarthy. Didn't throw for 100 yards. Turnovers really were the key in that game. The Lions turned the ball over almost as much as they had in the entire season up to this point in that game. They got to look in the mirror and see what to fix on offense next year. I'm not sure the play calling down the stretch there was working out for them. They seemed to be trying a lot of things, and it just didn't work. And they just didn't have that same rhythm and look that the Lions have had the last couple of years. The effect of losing Ben Johnson clearly showed up down the stretch. And even on defense, the Lions have been banged up the last couple of years. They just can't catch a break when it comes to injuries and their defense. So the fact that they're 8-8 and the Vikings are now also 8-8 is kind of surprising. Definitely were one of my favorites to make it to the Super Bowl this year. So it'll be kind of sad and disappointing that the Lions are not in it. But hey, they didn't win enough games. Simple as that. The Broncos rebounded against the Kansas City Chiefs, beating them 20-13 in what's probably going to be Travis Kelce's last game at Arrowhead Stadium. I honestly don't see Travis Kelce coming back next year. It's tough the way the year ended. Mahomes getting hurt, and then Gardner Minshew also getting hurt, down to their third-string quarterback. They can only muster 13 points against the Broncos. You know, it was a pretty good game for them considering how depleted they were on offense with injuries. The Broncos won another tight game, winning ugly, those character wins that they keep building this entire year. The Broncos still in control of the number 1 seed in the AFC at this point, and we'll see. Week 18 is going to decide a lot of things with the seeding. Most of the games this week in Week 17 really affected seeding, other than the Lions getting eliminated and the Colts also being eliminated after the Ravens beat the Packers and the Texans beating the Chargers on Saturday. The Colts, when they got to their game on Sunday, didn't really matter. They started Phillip Rivers anyway, probably going to be the last time we see Phillip Rivers in an NFL uniform. I doubt he's going to be starting in Week 18. There's really nothing to play for. He was there to try to get them to the playoffs. He didn't do that. Valiant effort. Again, I've talked about him for the whole last 3 weeks. It's quite amazing what he did. They were up to a 10-0 lead in that game against the Jaguars, who are on fire. And for a while, it looked like it might be a competitive game. And really, 23-17 being the final score, that's a pretty close game. But much like the previous 2 games, Phillip Rivers throws an interception late and just ends the comeback. Again, valiant effort, amazing feat that he did coming back after 5 years not playing. You know, it's really remarkable what he did. He did the best he could. Smart player. Clearly, the arm strength hadn't built back up enough. The passing game was all short yardage. Defensive had been able to just key off on Jonathan Taylor and stopping the run, forcing Phillip Rivers to throw, and he just didn't have the arm strength to do it. Even at the end there, when they had a chance to throw a Hail Mary, they brought in Riley Leonard to do it, who threw it 60 yards. Nice Hail Mary throw, but picked off in the end zone. Game over. Jaguars win. Jaguars, the small market team with the chip on their shoulder, the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL, winning again. The Jaguars have now won 7 straight games and continuing to build their resume for the playoffs. Liam Cohen's done a great job. 12 wins for the Jaguars in his first year as head coach. Amazing. A lot of these first-year coaches doing a great job this year. with their new teams. I mean, Mike Vrabel's in New England. He's not a first-year coach, but he's a first-year coach in New England, and he's turned that program around. Liam Cohen's done the same down in Jacksonville. And really, right now, with their defense, the way they can take the ball away and the hot streak that they're on, and Trevor Lawrence has finally been unlocked and looking like the guy who was in Tennessee and all the success he had in college is starting to show up on an NFL field. He's using his legs. He's using his arm. And right now, the Jaguars, their offense is working, and their defense can take the ball away. That's a recipe for trouble come these upcoming playoffs. So we'll see how they do. They still have a chance to be the number 1 seed. If both the Patriots and the Broncos lose and they win, they could be the number 1 seed. So we'll see how that goes this week. Something to watch in Week 18. It's going to be exciting. Speaking of exciting, let's talk about the Sunday night game between the Bears and the 49ers. That was one of the most exciting games, and I sure hope that these two teams meet up in the playoffs again. It was like just one explosive play after another, touchdown, back and forth. The whole game, 42-38. That's unbelievable, 80 points these two teams put up. And the Bears had a chance to win it at the end. Caleb Williams just scrambled and couldn't get enough on the ball to get it to his receiver in the end zone. If you watch that play back, I think he missed DeAndre Swift out of the backfield right away. He had him open and Swift had it. He would have had a touchdown if he would have saw it and swung it out to the left there. I don't know what he saw from our angle watching on TV. You could see Swift was open, but wherever he was looking, whatever his first read was, it wasn't Swift. Swift was, I guess, the dump off, and by the time he looked over there, he was covered. So he did the best he could. He scrambled, and he was going backwards, and he couldn't get enough on that ball. So tough win. I mean, it's the kind of thing that it reminds me of the year the Patriots were going for their undefeated season. In the last game of the year, they played the Giants in the final regular season game, and the Giants were right there with them toe-to-toe, and it's the kind of thing where you're like, yeah, we lost that game, but they didn't kill us. We hung with them. We can hang with them. We're not afraid of them. So I think the Bears are in a similar situation now. If they see the 49ers in the upcoming weeks in the playoffs, they're not going to be afraid of the 49ers. They know they can hang with them. They had a chance to win that game, and the 49ers, they have a chance for the number 1 seed overall if they win this upcoming week against the Seahawks. It's going to be an exciting game. It's great that there's games that matter. It seems like the games this upcoming week on Saturday. Let me just check that score. Let me just check that. Yes, the games this upcoming Saturday in Week 18, Seahawks and 49ers are going to be the 8 o'clock game. And that's for all the marbles. Whoever wins that gets home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And since the Super Bowl is going to be in the 49ers stadium, how cool would that be for them if they actually get to stay home and play all their games on their home field? And if they made it to the Super Bowl, they're technically having a home game. So that would be pretty cool to see, a nice storyline to keep an eye out for. But the Seahawks, boy, they're looking really good. They beat the Panthers this past week, 27-10, and it seems like they are starting to fire on all cylinders. Their defense is doing well. Sam Darnold did just enough. Jackson Smith-Njigba, great. Zach Charbonnet had a great game running for the Seahawks this week. They started to run the ball, which they haven't really been able to do consistently all year. If they can get that clicking, they're going to be trouble because they've got a great defense. The Panthers, along with the Buccaneers, neither one of them seems to want to win the NFC South division. They keep losing. The Panthers had a chance to clinch it for themselves. They lost. Now it's going to come down to Saturday night against the BUCS, or Saturday afternoon against the BUCS. We'll see who wins. And if the BUCS win, apparently, they don't automatically clinch a playoff spot. They need help to get in. But if the Panthers win, they're in. So now the game on Sunday between the Saints and the Falcons, who just beat the Rams, which was a shocker. Now the Falcons and the Saints, they might determine who goes to the playoffs for that NFC South division. if the Bucs win, it's going to come down to that game. But none of anything I just said will matter if the Panthers can take care of their own business. The Buccaneers losing to the Dolphins, who are now on a win streak. The Buccaneers, they don't seem to want to win the division either. They've won only 2 of their last 10 games, 1 of their last 8, and they are heading in the wrong direction. I mean, right now, losing to the Dolphins 20-17, that was a tough one. They had a chance to control their own destiny a little bit, especially with the Panthers losing. It would have been a little easier path for them to make the playoffs if they would have beat the Dolphins, but that's not the case. Baker Mayfield, he's been banged up. It's definitely showing. If you watch that game, Mike Evans and he are not on the same page. Lots of frustration on Mike Evans' face on the sideline talking to himself. Baker Mayfield just doesn't look right. That shoulder of his is bothering him. I think he's got a knee issue as well. So we're going to have to see Buccaneers, Panthers, just from optics of watching the two teams, the way they're playing. I feel the Panthers have the edge in that game. But we'll see. You never know. The Buccaneers could mess that up and then force us all be nail biting, waiting for the outcome of the Saints and Falcons game, which it would determine the South winner, the NFC South winner, if the Buccaneers wind up somehow beating the Panthers on Saturday. But my gut tells me the Panthers are going to take care of their business on Saturday. The Browns played Scrooge to the Steelers, holding off the Steelers, clinching the AFC North division one more week, which is going to bring us down to the Steelers-Ravens in Week 18, which is already a great rivalry, and Steelers-Ravens games are must-see TV for years now, in my opinion. I'm not a fan of either one of those teams, but I always watch the Steelers and Ravens when they play because those games are division rivals. Long history between those teams going back to before when the Ravens were the original Browns. Those two franchises have a long history with one another. These games are always tight and competitive. Mike Tomlin has a chance to do what he always does, win his 10th game, which just seems to be the normal. The Steelers always seem to win 10 games. And the Ravens, they've battled back. They started so poorly. We've been talking about them all year with all those early losses. The Ravens were able to win their game against the Packers on Saturday. The Packers had already clinched their playoff spot because of the Lions' loss on Christmas. So the Packers rested a couple of players, including Jordan Love, because they're in the playoffs and they're not going to win the division because the Bears have that division. So there was no real reason to put anybody out there to get hurt. But, oh my gosh, Derrick Henry came, saw, conquered, ran all over the Packers. That game should seal his ballot to the Hall of Fame once he retires. He just single-handedly destroyed the Packers. Packers without Micah Parsons now, that defense is looking a little shaky. Been looking shaky the last couple of weeks, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned for them. They were looking so good and so solid. Josh Jacobs is banged up on offense. Jordan Love is banged up on offense. They're missing people, including Micah Parsons on defense. So the Packers, I don't know, they're not as formidable as they were a few weeks ago, and they are trending in the wrong direction heading to the end of the season. They're not on a win streak, they're on a losing streak, and it doesn't look good. But oh my gosh, Derrick Henry, what a game. This takes me back to week 16 when I asked a question last week, where was Derrick Henry in the last 12 minutes of the game against the Patriots that they were beating? Again, very happy they decided to sit him out for almost the entire fourth quarter last week. But Derrick Henry proved this week why he should have been in there and why the Patriots might not be on the verge of clinching the number 1 seed, because they should have, in all intents and purposes, they should have lost that game to the Ravens because the Ravens were dominating them until they decided to sit Derrick Henry out. I don't know. Put your best conspiracy theory down into what's going on there. You know, I've heard a lot of people say stuff about betting lines on that game against the Patriots that might have caused them to sit him, which seems ridiculous. But I don't know. It is odd. He wasn't hurt. They just sat him down. apparently John Harbaugh said it was a rotational thing. That's BS as far as I'm concerned, because you don't put your best player and sit him on the bench if he's completely healthy. So don't know what happened there. Again, very grateful they let the Patriots win that game and sat Derrick Henry out, but Derrick Henry came back with a vengeance against the Packers. Unbelievable game. If you haven't seen it, watch the replays on NFL Network. It was unbelievable. An unbelievable performance by Derrick Henry. Really just phenomenal. I have no words. It was just one guy beating an entire team. That's what it seemed like if you watch that game. And it doesn't look like in the game against the Steelers, the Ravens may be without Lamar Jackson. His back injury seems to be the bruise or contusion, whatever he suffered in the game against the Patriots, seems to be not healing quickly. And it's questionable whether he's going to play on Sunday against the Steelers. And honestly, the way the Ravens handled the Packers, I think if the Ravens bring that same formula they had against the Packers, they wind up having a very improbable comeback and winning the AFC North. And right now, the way the Steelers have been playing and the way the Ravens have been playing, they're heading in opposite directions. And if I had to call it in the middle of the week, I would say the Ravens are probably going to win that game against the Steelers in Week 18. But time will tell. We'll see. I'm going to talk about the game on Saturday a little bit between the Texans and the Chargers. One of the things I enjoyed about this game was the fact that I haven't really had a chance to watch the Texans in a full game this year. I've been watching it, on the Red Zone and seeing highlights on the sports shows the next morning. The thing that I saw about this game against the Chargers, the Texans defense is unstoppable, or unrelenting is a better word. They just tee off at 100 miles an hour every play and get after the quarterback, get after the running backs. That defense is playing great. They have an 8-game win streak going. They are hot at the right time. I mean, in the AFC right now, the Texans and the Jaguars are the hottest teams heading into this last week and into the playoffs. And I don't think anybody wants to play either one of them. But from what I saw with the Texans and the way they got after Justin Herbert, it was unbelievable. Justin Herbert, who is great at eluding pass rushes and using his legs too to get some yards when the blocking breaks down, he couldn't even do that this week against the Texans. They were just flying all over the field. And keep an eye on their defense, because they definitely have a championship caliber defense at this point. And it's going to come down to CJ Stroud having to make some sort of a play in the playoffs, whether it be a fourth down play where they really need to make a first down to keep their drive going to win the game. Something. I think their defense is just amazing, but I think it's going to come down to CJ Stroud and see if CJ Stroud can do the right thing and muster a win late in a game. I think when we see whoever they wind up playing in their first playoff game, I think it's going to come down to some play late in the game with CJ Stroud. So we'll see if that prediction comes true. But watch out for the Texans. I don't think you want to play them right now. 8 wins in a row going into next week, maybe 9 going into playoffs. That's the team. Their defense looks scary. It was really impressive watching that game. Check out the replays if you can. Watch the whole game. They just don't stop. They fly around that field. It was unbelievable. Another big game on Sunday was the Eagles and Bills. The Eagles held on to win 13-12. Josh Allen had a chance to win the game and just threw it wide of his receiver in the end zone. They fought back. I mean, it was a defensive struggle. The weather definitely had a factor. I'd like to see these teams play each other where rain or snow is not a factor, and see how these teams match up, because defensively, both of these teams were outstanding in that game. The Eagles in the first half, their offense was working, and in the second half, did absolutely nothing. But they did control the game for 3.5 quarters, and the Bills in the last 5 minutes of the game were able to get down there and score 2 touchdowns. They missed an extra point on the first one, which forced them to have to go for 2 on the second one. They could have kicked the extra point to tie it and go to overtime, but I think the way they were dragging and fighting and their defense had fought so hard against the Eagles, they were exhausted and their coach just wanted to end it and go home with the win. I don't blame that call. I think it was a good call. It worked. His receiver was open. Josh Allen just missed him. So the Bills should have beaten the Eagles in that game, but they didn't. The Eagles won one of those ugly games, one of those character games. That's a good win going into the playoffs. Again, the Eagles offense, at least in the first half, they're starting to do things right. They're able to throw the ball to all their receivers, Smith and A.J. Brown. Saquon Barkley is seeming to get his rhythm back, and the blocking is getting better for the Eagles offense, other than the second half of that game. But the Eagles are trending in the right direction going into the playoffs. We'll see if they play their starters this upcoming week and keep that rhythm going. Their seeding can't really change. They could still get the number 2 seed, so they would want to win that game, but they also don't want to lose Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley or any of their stars. So they might be sitting some people this upcoming week. We'll have to see how that goes. The Falcons, we talked about them a little bit already. They were playing Grinch to the Rams. The Rams now, they're locked into like the 5, 6, or 7 seed, depending on who wins this upcoming week in week 18. The Falcons won on a late field goal. Bijan Robinson in that game was outstanding, just short of 200 yards rushing. Again, another team, the Falcons, such a head scratcher. They had some great wins this season, and they had some bad losses this season that just has you scratching your head like, which team are they? It's a very Jekyll and Hyde team. But Bijan Robinson looked like the best running back in the NFL. He could run the ball. He can catch passes like a wide receiver. Outstanding. Next season, if I get the number 1 draft choice in my fantasy draft, that's who I'm picking. That guy can do everything. 93-yard touchdown run in that game. The Rams, they just look confused. They've been struggling the last 5, 6 weeks. Matt Stafford has thrown a bunch of interceptions in the last 3 games. Not really sure what's going on. I guess maybe not having Davante Adams is starting to affect him. I think that's his security blanket, especially when they get down close to the end zone. Davante Adams may play in week 18, but the Rams should play to win this game in week 18 because they want to be the 5 seed and go up against either the Buccaneers or the Panthers. They don't want to face off any of the other teams who are playing really well right now. So if I'm the Rams, you get everybody on that field. You play in that game. Sean McVay's already said his starters are going to play. Get Davante Adams in the field. He doesn't have to play the whole game. Just get him in there. Get some conditioning. Let him get one of his touchdowns when they get in the red zone like he seems to do every week he's on the field, and get that seed so that you're playing the Buccaneers or the Panthers, because those teams, neither one of them are looking outstanding right now. In that division, the Falcons and the Saints are really playing much better than either the Buccaneers or the Packers. Either the Buccaneers or the Panthers at this point. And if you could change and have the team who's on the best run, I would want to have the Saints in the playoffs from the NFC South right now, because the Saints, they're on a winning streak. Tyler SHOUGH is looking like he might be the rookie of the year. He's playing so well. He's 5-3 in these games. He's just been playing outstanding, and it looks like he might be the quarterback of their future, as they thought. When they drafted him, I thought maybe he was more of a project. I didn't know much about him. I didn't follow him in his college career, so I don't really have anything based on knowing who he played, how he played in big games. I don't know anything about that. And the first 3 weeks he played this year, he's trying to figure it out, but he's rolling now. And it seems like he and Kellen Moore have a good rapport going, and they're starting to figure out how to use their offense. Chris Olave is looking amazing. And like I said, if you could pick the team who's playing the best in the South to represent them, I would pick the Saints right now because they are rolling. I've been saying it all year. They've just been so close. They play hard. They just have been coming up short in so many of their games this year. But right now, they seem to got it all clicking. And, they won their game this past week. We haven't talked about them because they've been eliminated from the playoffs. But, Tyler SHOUGH might be rookie of the year, really. And that game with the Saints and the Falcons this upcoming week, both of those teams are on rolls late in the season. The Falcons are winning now with Kirk Cousins as the quarterback. They're on a winning streak. The Saints are on a winning streak. Both teams are playing well. They both want to end on a winning note and go into with something positive in the offseason. So that game might be a really important game on Sunday. But even if it's not, if the Panthers win on Saturday, you should still watch that game because both of these teams are playing well, and Bijan Robinson and Tyler Shough would be fun to watch in the last week of the season. One of the games that I thought was going to be an important game, not because the teams are any good, because they're both horrible, but because of the NFL draft and the number one draft choice, the Giants and the Raiders. Looking at that game, you're thinking, who wants the number one pick? And before the game even started, the Raiders told you they wanted that number one pick because they put Brock Bowers on injured reserve, he does have a knee injury and has been playing through it, but they decided, let's sit him down and take Geno Smith's favorite weapon away. And MAXX CROSBY, who earlier in the week when asked about tanking for the draft, he basically said in the press, that's not my problem. I'm here to win games. I play football. I want to win games. And I guess the Raiders brass heard that and said, you know what, Max, you've got a knee injury you've been dealing with. Why don't you sit down and go on IR? So that's a very interesting thing. The Raiders definitely signaled they were going to lose that game or wanted to lose that game. And they did. And the Giants, just like they did last year, they screwed up their draft choice by winning a game in week 17. And now they have the number 2 draft choice. I mean, they don't really need a quarterback, but having that number 1 draft choice, in my opinion, for the Giants would have been the move because they need so many other things. They could have traded that draft pick if they have the number 1 draft pick to someone else because they have a quarterback in Jackson Dart. They don't need to look at any of the quarterbacks coming out. They need defense and offensive line help, and they need secondary help. But that number 1 pick could be packaged to get somebody else's later in the first round and maybe their second round pick, or maybe players like a MAXX CROSBY. Who knows? It just seems they're not going to have the same sort of trading cachet that they would have if they had the number 1 pick. Right now, hopefully the Giants lose to the Cowboys, and the Raiders, I don't see how they're going to win their game this week, especially with all the moves they're making and putting their best players on the bench and on IR. But the Giants, they beat the Raiders last week, damaging their draft positioning, and I'm sure ruining a lot of Giants fans' Christmas wish of the number 1 draft pick. And again, like I said, I think it's more important for them to have that pick to trade away and get players from other teams to help fill some of the holes in their roster, or to get a package of multiple draft picks for that number 1 pick and build your team out because they need help. They need other receivers. Malik Neighbors has been injury prone. If he comes back next year, they've got like a pretty explosive offense. But I am just shocked. I know Marcus was beside himself when the Giants wound up winning that game. But, these guys are NFL players. Nobody wants to lose on purpose. But holy smokes, it's just, if you're trying to rebuild your franchise and you have the record you have, and you've been bad for several years now, and the Raiders are in that boat too. They need a quarterback desperately because Geno Smith's not going to be back with them. I don't see that. And I also feel like I've said last week, I think the Raiders are going to clean house. They're including the coaching staff. And now it looks like MAXX CROSBY, because of this soap opera with the front office of the Raiders, he's probably going to be looking to take his talents elsewhere, which would be terrible because he's the best player on the Raiders defense by far and a game wrecker. And I mean, there's not anybody who wouldn't want MAXX CROSBY on their team, in my opinion. A good player, good guy. He seemed fine playing on a trampoline and shooting baskets in his house on Saturday after he was told he wasn't going to play. He went out and put it on the internet. Check it out. You'll see he looks fine. That seems like a big middle finger to the Raiders front office. And I think he's made his position known, and it'll be interesting to see if MAXX CROSBY is a Raider at the start of next season. The last game I want to talk about that had playoff implications, we mentioned the Steelers a little bit and the Browns a little bit, but that Steelers and Brown game, it seems like that outcome was determined actually last week when DK Metcalf got into it with the fan and wound up getting suspended for 2 games because the Browns beat the Steelers barely 13-6. And DK Metcalf, especially at the end of that game when Aaron Rodgers was throwing to Marquez Valdez-Scantling 4 times in a row, that would have been DK Metcalf's ball, those jump balls in the end zone. And that suspension really hurt them. I think they would have won that game against the Browns, and it wouldn't have been as close as it was. And as Myles Garrett said, it seemed that the Steelers were more interested in preventing him from getting a sack record against Aaron Rodgers than winning the actual game. He's on the field. He could feel it. He could feel the energy. He might be right. I'm sure some Steelers fans, give me a comment below. What do you think? You think that they blew it with the way they played that game? The Browns, they do have a good defense, and you got to give Kevin Stefanski and his staff credit because this team has been out of it for a long time, but they still keep coming to play. They play hard. Their defense is playing hard. Their defense wanted to didn't want the Steelers to clinch on their field, and they did the best job. Shedeur Sanders did good enough. He does have an interception problem. I mentioned it last week. He threw a really bad interception in that game that allowed the Steelers to have that chance to, come back and try to win it at the end there. You just can't make those kind of blind throwing those duck balls up for grabs in this level. This isn't college anymore. This isn't Jackson State. This isn't Colorado. Defensive backs, they're going to jump all over those balls and take them just like they did last week. My favorite thing was the shot of cutting to Deion Sanders in the press booth, putting his hat over his head and covering his face. Just couldn't believe the throw his son made. And I'm sure Browns fans are grateful for that win. They love beating their rivals, the Steelers. But Shedeur Sanders, if you're going to be the quarterback for the Browns next season, you got to clean that up and you got to be smarter. Take the sack. Don't throw it away. Don't give up pick sixes. Don't give the team the ball with a chance to win the game. You got to protect the ball, which is one of the things that my team, the Patriots, Drake May, back in the MVP conversation after his game this week against the Jets. Yes, it is the Jets. They're not very good, but he played such a clean game, almost a perfect game. His stats, 19 for 21. He had 5 touchdowns. With Matthew Stafford having the bad game that he had against the Falcons on Monday night, I think Drake May right now is now the favorite for MVP. And the way the Patriots just handled the Jets, I always say it, good teams need to beat bad teams, and the Patriots didn't mess around on Sunday. They took care of the Jets early and then had their backups in late, resting starters, and saw today that rookie offensive tackle Will Campbell is going to start practicing this week. Not sure if he's going to play in Week 18. Probably not, but it looks like he might be available for the Patriots in the playoffs, which would be good news. And if they somehow win this upcoming week and the Broncos lose and manage the number 1 seed and get that bye, that's even better for Will Campbell being available for them in the playoffs, which would be great. Well, that's it for me. That's it for Week 17. Exciting games, exciting outcomes, playoff positioning, still in flux. Week 18, it's going to be a lot more exciting than Week 18s typically are because there's so much unsettled business and seeding positioning. So I'm looking forward to Week 18. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it after it's all done. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next episode.